Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Inside the Garage with IMS. Today, we're teaching you about cleaning and adjusting your motorcycle chain. We cannot begin to tell you how many motorcyclists neglect taking care of their chains. And of all the components on your motorcycle, it's the one thing that should be inspected and cared for every 250 miles. Jeff over at Moto Republic in Los Angeles is going to take you through the entire process from start to finish. So follow along in real time and learn that cleaning and adjusting your motorcycle's chain can be done in just under 10 minutes.
It's important to keep your chain and sprockets in good order. They're wearable items like brake pads, so they're going to need constant adjustment to kind of stay at their best. So these are the tools you're going to need. We're going to need your basic chain lube and chain clean. You're going to need a chain cleaning brush. We're going to do a tension adjustment. So I have a nice handy dandy little ruler in centimeters to measure the chain slack. In the case of the Triumph, it's a single-sided swing arm, so we're kind of lucky in that we get really easy chain adjustments. There's an actual tool to adjust the tension on the chain. Other motorcycles are going to be a little bit different, but today we're lucky with the Triumph. And then you'll need some mechanics rags to clean up your chain. Okay, first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to get the rear wheel off the ground to do the chain clean. In this case, I have the bike up in a lift. It's nice and secure, and I'm going to use a center jack to do that. At home, you could use your center stand if your bike has one, or any type of motorcycle jack. You just want to make sure that the bike's secure while you have the rear wheel in the air. So we're going to do that real quick. Now, you don't need the rear tire all the way up in the air. You just need the rear tire off the deck so that you can rotate it with your hand. So I'm about 1 centimeter off the deck. That's all we need. Also of note, you're never going to want to do this any other way than manually with your hand. I've heard of folks who'll say put the bike up on the stand, put it in first gear and let it run to speed up the process. That's just a good way to lose a finger. Always do this manually, always rotate clockwise, and you'll be good. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do the chain clean, and I'm using a chain clean product made specifically for O-ring chains. Now the trick here is a lot of people will try to spray and clean the chain right here, but what happens is there's going to be overspray and it gets your tire. We want to stay the farthest away from the tire as we can. So I usually pick a spot to spray right in here. With my right hand, I'm going to rotate the wheel so that we're soaking the chain. Now this is going to be messy. You're not going to do this. This is not a clean task. Yes, it's going to drip everywhere. You just clean it up after. Doing chain maintenance isn't pretty. The main thing is we don't want to clean or lube our tire here. So I'm going to soak the entire chain with chain clean. Next we're going to do is I'm going to use something called a Grunge Brush, chain cleaning brush. With my right, to use this as like a toothbrush. You'll see that I'll do like a scrubbing motion here on the easiest accessible part of the chain. And then with my right hand, I'm rotating the tire clockwise. The reason we want to rotate the tire this way is that we're keeping our tools in our hands away from pinch points like the sprocket and the chain. If you do it this way and you're in here with your hands, there's a chance you're going to get sucked into it. I've seen it. It's not pretty. Let's avoid that. So we're going to move the wheel clockwise. So the brush works several ways. You can run it like I'm running it, and then you could turn it upside down and clean the bottom and the sides of the chain. So there's a couple ways to do it. All right, after you feel like you've gotten a good brush on, this is when you're going to take the rag and start taking up dirt by hand. And again, going clockwise so that your hand is nowhere near that rear sprocket. Okay, great. We're getting off stuff here. So I'll just flip the rag and we'll look for a little bit more. All right, we're still getting some off, so I'm going to take it for a second spin. Soak the chain again with chain clean. All right, use the same rag. So you're never going to get this thing clean enough to eat off of. That's not the goal. You're just going for cleaner. All this, cleaner than it was, really. All the dirt that's on your chain, the old grease, it just acts as gristle, and it just wears down your chain and sprocket. So we're never going to get rid of all of it, but we're just going to try to make it better than we had it here. So that's actually pretty good. It's looking good. I feel much better about it. It looks cleaner, and I can tell, I'm listening to it, it's moving much smoother. All right, we're gonna move on to lube. So we're just gonna wanna coat the chain with lube. We're not gonna soak it this time. And in fact, I'm gonna wipe off any excess. The purpose of the lube is really to keep the O-rings in your O-ring chain nice and fresh, as in not helping them dry out. And then, of course, lube just helps the chain move over the sprockets more efficient. But too much of it, and you're collecting too much dirt, and dirt becomes gristle, and gristle hurts your chain and sprockets. So I'm just gonna lightly lube everything, and we're gonna call that done. All right, now that we've got the chain all lubed up and clean, we're gonna move on to the tension adjustment. Now, we're actually gonna wanna have the weight of the bike on the rear wheel to do the tension adjustment. So we're gonna lower the bike back down onto the ground. If you adjust the tension with the rear wheel up in the air, you're gonna get it wrong. It needs to have the weight of the bike on the chain. Now, this chain is actually pretty bad. This is actually pretty loose. So what we'll want to do is we're going to take a measurement of the chain slack here. My casual handle on this is that we've got a little bit more slack than we need. Each manufacturer, and you'll find this in your owner's manual, they're going to have a specification of the amount of chain slack that they recommend. So as I said before, we're going to want to have the weight of the bike on the chain to properly measure the chain slack. When we're measuring chain slack, what we're measuring is the difference between the lowest point the chain is and putting a little bit of pressure on it, difference between the low and the high point. It's really the swing of the chain, and we measure this in millimeters. The reason you want to measure and keep your chain slack properly adjusted is because it's your part of your suspension system, not just driving the rear wheel, it's part of suspension. As your suspension goes up and down, it actually changes the length between your countershaft sprocket and your drive sprocket. And so effectively, when you hit a bump, the chain actually tightens a little bit. So we want the chain loose enough that when you hit a big bump, it doesn't stretch out the chain, and tight enough so it's not going to fall off the sprocket. So it's a compromise. You'll want to check your owner's manual to see what their specification is. On the Triumph Speed Triple, I know it's between 20 and 30 millimeters of chain slack, and just eyeballing this, we're way out. So you're going to want to check your owner's manual on exactly how to measure your chain tension on your specific bike. But most of the time, it's on the part of the chain with most of the swing, so in the middle. And we're going to measure the distance between the lowest point of the chain with a little pressure on it, and then the highest point of the chain with a little pressure on it. So usually what I'll do is I'll sit my ruler here, and this is in millimeters. Most of the specs are in millimeters. And what I have is a huge, huge swing here. So it's over 50 millimeters. So with a single-sided swing arm, it's actually easy to change the chain tension. You'll just need a special tool like the one for this Triumph Speed Triple. And you'll see that we can induce more slack, or we can increase the slack. So what you can do, and you can see, as I'm turning the adjuster on the rear wheel, I'm increasing the tension in the chain. So I'll add some tension, and I'm going to go measure it. So I'm about at 30 right now. I'm going to shoot for the middle. I'm going for gold. We're going to go for 25. But technically, if you're at 30, that's great. You're within spec. But it's so easy to adjust this chain that I'm just going to get it exactly where it needs to be. So I made a small adjustment there. And we're going to check our tension here. I'm going to go a little bit tighter. Here we go. All right. Let's see if that did it, and hopefully I didn't overdo it. That's a solid 25. I'm calling that good. We're going to lock down the rear axle, and the adjustment's done.
Thanks, Jeff. Keeping your chain in good working order, free from debris, road grime, oxidation, and other degrading elemental effects will ensure its longevity and save you cash in the long run. At 18,000 miles and after a lot of hard riding, I replaced both the chain and sprocket set here on my Tiger, but I was only able to get that kind of mileage out of both of those components because of regular cleaning, inspection, and maintenance. Remember, your motorcycle chain is a vitally important component to your motorcycle. It's responsible for transmitting power from the engine to the rear wheel, and it does so at a very, very high speed. A failure in motion can be very dangerous, so do yourself and your motorcycle a favor and commit to regularly cleaning and inspecting your motorcycle chain by joining the Clean Chain Club. Okay, that does it for this episode of Inside the Garage with IMS. If you have a job you'd like to see us tackle here on Inside the Garage, be sure to post that and your ideas here down in the comment section below. Remember to subscribe to all of our digital channels, including ContinueTheRide.com, for updates on our whole new tour, Progressive IMS Outdoors. Progressive IMS Outdoors invites riders and prospective riders of all ages and abilities to come out for a weekend, engage in power sports culture, explore related lifestyles in a festival-like atmosphere. You'll be able to enjoy demos, shop premier brands, camp overnight in select cities, and all the meanwhile preparing yourself for more riding and adventures with family and friends. So, until next time, ride smart, ride safe, and we'll see you out there on the road.